order. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we jump in, next, I didn't hear from anyone being online. I did hear Annie can't make it tonight. And Tom Wells, so everyone knows, has resigned from the board. He notified the town of Wayne that he was stepping down, so he has done that. So that's where we're at there.
Hey, so I just want to say I just got a thing from Kristen. She wanted to ride with me tonight. I think she thinks it's at 6:30.
Yeah.
So I'm letting her know.
Yeah. Tell her to start driving. No, I'm kidding. That was a little direct.
He's got to say it, not you.
So next, we'll just do additions. I know there's a couple additions, adjustments to the agenda by the Board of Superintendent. I have one. We have to approve. I know I sent it around, but we have to approve the board goals. So that's in our packet. So that will be C.
And I'd like to add the technology lease addition to approve.
That will be D. Okay. Now I am going to, quick introduction and reminder. So at our board meeting, it feels like years ago, but one of our maybe 2 board meetings ago, the board voted to, one of the motions was Noah made to engage with MSMA to help us with our superintendent search. And we have Eileen King with us tonight, the Deputy Executive Director from Maine School Management Association. And I don't see her. She couldn't make it tonight. So I will turn it over to Eileen.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here. As I came in to the building, I always loved coming back to Maranacook. It was my first teaching job at the high school just a few years ago. But as Sean said, my name's Eileen King. I'm actually the Executive Director of the Maine School Superintendents Association. I also do work for Maine School Management as the Deputy Executive Director, and that's why I'm here tonight, is to review what a superintendent search is going to look like. And then I believe we're going to go into a board workshop afterwards.
Correct.
Okay,
yep.
Thank you. So on the left side of your packet is a cost proposal for the MSMA Superintendent Search Services. I'm not going to go through that completely tonight. What I will do is identify some of the activities that we do provide for superintendent searches. I have 4 searches going on right now, and I'm sorry, I got to turn my phone on. I was asked recently how many searches have taken place since 2018. I was superintendent of schools down in the Booth Bay region for 16 years. I was a K-8 principal there for 10 years. I was a middle school principal at Skowhegan for 4 years. So in the last, since 2018, we have done over 90 superintendent or interim superintendent searches to a variety of different levels. We can facilitate a search. We can do a full consultant search, and you can tailor the search to what you want. Sean and I have spoken about the overall search, and so what I'm going to do is talk about some of the activities that we can provide for you, and then I'm going to give you a sample timeline, and then I will also talk to you about some of the activities that we will do on your behalf. So if you get into the proposal that I mentioned on page 3, the MSMA Superintendent Search Services, and keep in mind that the per application costs are estimated at 8 applications. I currently have a search going on where I've had 13 requests for applications. This is on the left side of your packet in the very back. I've had 13 requests for applications. At this point, we have 6 completed applications. We usually don't always get all 13 requests completed, so it always depends on people are interviewing you, they're watching your board meetings, they're going through press, they're going through former board meetings, or on your websites, And they might find that maybe it's not a match, or maybe it's not a good time for them to make a change for whatever reason. But it's exciting to see 13 requests for applications. In this day and age, that's a lot. My highest recently was 30 requests for applications. It's 56 days a year, and there were a lot of retired superintendents that were interested in that position. So they're currently in the process of interviewing. So some of the services that we provide, obviously, meeting with the district to plan a search, that's something that will be done complimentary. Preparation of the superintendent search timeline, activities and calendar, that's already been done. The committee workshops is going to be one workshop that I recommend. I don't recommend all the workshops. I recommend the workshop that is required by your policy GCFB, which is the training for confidentiality. And in your GCFB, it requires that you do have training for hiring of administrative staff. That would take about an hour, and that would be for anyone and everyone who will see, talk about, participate in any way, shape, or form, the interview process. So every board member would have to attend that training, because at the end of the day, you will be the final interview committee, because the superintendent is your one hire. And everyone on the interview committee, on the board I would strongly recommend be part of that training. There is a training that we provided, interrupting bias in the getting away in the hiring process. This is not where your minds are all going, but a graduate of University of Southern Maine could very well be as good, if not better, than a graduate of Harvard. So you've got to take those university names out of your brain. A person who may have been a superintendent for 20 years may not be as strong as a superintendent who's been a superintendent for 3 years. You've got to take that longevity bias out of your brain. So when I talk about bias, I'm talking about a lot of people go right for the college. Oh, this person graduated from this, Ivy League university, therefore they've got to be good. And I need to make sure that you understand, and I'll do this during the other training, that you've got to look deeper into candidates than just where they went to school, and also their experience. If someone's jumped around every 2 years, is that a red flag? My personal opinion. When I was looking at applications, that's something that caused concern. Why do they jump around every 2 years? If someone has shown stability, longevity in a district, that's also something that should speak loudly. So when I talk about removing the bias, those are the biases that I'm talking about removing. The other, on the next page, what we do offer are community forums, staff forums, and student forums. What I recommend is the next activity would be your listening sessions. I have spent hours and hours going across the state of Maine, going to community forums, only to have 3 or 4 people show up. Costs you a lot of money, takes a lot of time, and there's no bang for your buck. So I have found that if you recommend that we do a survey, a community survey, that goes out to every member of the community, every town, every parent, all your staff, your administrative team, I will gather much richer data in that survey that will lead me to developing a leadership development and a successful candidate profile. So I would recommend that I would do listening session with the staff. That would be done virtually. We would schedule a couple afternoons right after school. I would also recommend that I do a listening session with the administrative team, because the superintendent is their direct hire, and I really want to hear what they're looking for in their next leader. Obviously, I mentioned the survey. I strongly recommend that you consider the survey. What do I do with that survey? I will collate the data. I can collate the data based on who's answered, what do the parents want, what do the staff want, what do the teachers want, what does the community want in their next leader in your school system. But I also take that data a little bit further. I will develop themes based on strengths and needs. And from those themes, I will recommend interview questions based on those strengths and needs. So if we find that you have strengths, what questions are you going to ask that candidate to ensure that those strengths continue? If you find you have needs, what questions are you going to ask that candidate to identify how we would improve on those needs? So those are suggested questions. The hiring committee and the interview committees will certainly develop their formal list of questions. I worked at Marana-Cook a few years ago, very many years ago, so I can't develop questions because I don't have boots on the ground here. but I can certainly take the survey data from community feedback and recommend questions, and from there you would decide which questions to use. As far as advertising and recruitment, all of these items we would do is that a job description development with samples we have. There will be a brochure development, a development of an online print advertisement, and that will go in the MSSA news. We recommend that you advertise at AASA, which is the premium job flash package. So the premium job flash package, what that means is that AASA is the National Superintendent's Organization, and that's where a lot of superintendents across the country will go to look for jobs. Every time a job is added, the previous job goes down in, I don't want to say rank, but it goes down the totem pole. The premium package keeps this job at the top 15 jobs across the country. So it never falls so far below that no one sees it. So that's a recommendation. That's what most districts do. Ed Week online, top school jobs. Once again, that's where most educators, especially educational leaders and administrators, will go to look for jobs. That's another place that would go. And then School Spring, if you don't have an account, we would still put it in School Spring, and then we would also put it on servingschools.com, which is the main local job placement for educational jobs. The application process, we will develop custom application materials. I would do all the correspondence with candidates. All the materials would come to our office, and I would do all the correspondence. You would not have any personal information about the candidates or access to that information. We find it better that happens if the applications come to our office, so there's not some big envelope sitting on the secretary's desk and they all say, oh, Eileen came, she applied, ooh, she worked here, ooh, that would not be good. So we try to keep that from happening. I think I did a good job on that. But anyway, the application process, we develop a secure web page creation, so when it's time to get the applications to the hiring committee, we would have a secure web page that would go out to you in a link with a password. You would not be allowed to print the applications, and you could not download the applications. If someone has a reason where they cannot use the computer to read the applications, if they need an accommodation, we will make an accommodation. We will have those applications printed at central office. Then they'll be confined to central office times to review the applications. We will process the applications, and then we recommend, especially for out-of-state candidates, that you do the backgroundchecks.com service, which goes into sex offender aliases, it checks your college transcripts, and it checks other data banks to make sure that the information that we're getting is accurate. So those are the services, and those are the recommendations that the most common process, the most common search is what I would recommend. And then I did mention the interview process, the development of proposed interview questions. I also, as far as scanning and screening the applications, I would develop a screening protocol based on the outcomes of the survey. So the survey becomes the heart of the process, where everything else is aligned to that. So it's not a disjointed search. It really is a search that's going to be tailored by the results of the survey. And everything that we do after the results of the survey come in is going to help us go through the whole timeline. And Diane, could you go to the timeline? Yes, the timeline, please. And you might want to make that a little bit bigger if you can. Thank you. Okay, so to the left, so what I've done here, and maybe just a little bit smaller now, Diane, just so we can see the whole document, sorry. Right, if you go down to the left there, there we go. So I've given you two timelines. One is very aggressive, is posting October 17th, was just a couple weeks from this Friday. The other one is a little bit less aggressive, posting November 3rd. So if I were to recommend, I've got the two timelines. To post the position, I'm going to go with the October 17th. I would open the community survey October 20th. I would close the survey November 7th. I would ask that the hiring committee is named. So this is where I want to stop for a minute. What I recommend is that you have a hiring committee that is made up of not a quorum of the board, so you're going to have, some board members on it, but this is a way for the hiring committee, which is going to be made up of some community members, some parents, some administrators, some teachers, and central office staff, as you seem appropriate. I had a hiring committee once of 47 people. It was a train wreck. It doesn't work, but that's what the district wanted, so I accommodated their needs. Certainly, I would recommend a hiring committee of 14 to 16 people at the most. Most of my hiring committees are about 10, 8 to 10 people, but you have several towns in this district, so I think making sure that you have your towns recommended. So the naming of the hiring committee is up to the point person, the lead, and who's going to be on that hiring committee. The reason the hiring committee needs to be named by the 14th is that the mandatory the training, and this is a date I threw out there, per your policy, GCFB, would take place virtually on the 20th. It's about an hour at the most, and that would be via Zoom, and you could do that from the privacy of your home. And then after that training, you would sign your confidentiality agreement. But it is required by your policy that you provide that training. So that would happen on the 20th, and that date's not etched in stone. It just happened to be an open night in my calendar, so I threw it in there in case it worked. Applications would close the 28th, which is, I believe, the Friday after Thanksgiving. Screening, the hiring committee screens the applications. So this gives the hiring committee a representative group of people from your community and your schools. They are actually going to select who gets interviewed, and through a screening process. Those candidates that will get interviewed will get scored. I will meet with the person that I'll be working with and go over the scores, and I'll say, and someday I'm going to be wrong, but so far in all the searches I've done, there is always a line between those that go to the top and those that don't quite make it. So there's always a real clear delineation on who your strongest candidates are. So the hiring committee would screen the applications between the 2nd and the 5th. Once again, they're going to have a secure web page with a link and a password that would allow them to access the applications. Once again, that can't be printed, can't be downloaded. They would score them on a scoring rubric that I would give them, and then the scores would come to me. I would contact the person that I'll be working with the closest, and that would take place around December 5th. And I would go over the scores, and then the first interview by the hiring committee would be, I've got the week of December 11th, and then the second interview, those that were interviewed, that were scored the highest by the hiring committee, would then go to the full board for the second interview. Couple questions, if you can scroll below, I think. So, obviously the questions I have, where will the ad be placed? I strongly recommend AASA, Serving Schools, School Spring, and Ed Week. I believe this needs to be a wide open search that invites candidates from Maine and from outside the state. How many would be on the hiring committee? I think that's a decision that the board will have to make. Or if there's going to be a subcommittee that's going to oversee the search process, that committee could do that as well. And then who is the main contact person? So what's really important is that I have someone that I can text, call, and that will have the authority to make decisions, not on selecting candidates, not on moving candidates forward to the full board, that will be able to answer some strategic questions about the process. I don't have time, and you don't have time to say, well, we'll have to bring that to the full board. That has to go back for a decision. That could easily waste 2 or 3 weeks and could really disrupt the process. So the next slide I have kind of gives you an overview of what I would recommend that you consider doing as part of your search. However, if you decide to do some different activities or some different things that are listed there, and that'll have to be a little bit bigger too. Thank you. Can you just make the font bigger? Oh, there we go. So I will be developing a leadership, there we go. Developing a schedule of the process, which I've done. And so I gave you one process that starts October 17th and one process that starts November 2nd. The November 2nd one would get you to interviews in the first week of January. I will advertise the vacancy. I will put the job description out based on your job description that you have, and then develop a brochure of the district, and then develop the ad. I will write the ad. Through the survey, I will develop a leadership profile and a successful candidate profile. So basically, we'll find out what are the attributes, characteristics of the successful candidate will look like. That will be done through the survey. I recommend that I do listening sessions with the staff and administrative team. I'd like to meet with the administrative team in person. With the staff, I would probably open up 2 listening sessions at a time that's convenient right after school. If they come, they come. If they don't, they don't. But we certainly want to make that available to have a listening session to gather some feedback from them. From the survey, obviously I said what I would do is develop the strengths and the needs of the district, and then provide recommended interview and reference check questions based on the survey. I will develop an application screening protocol for the hiring committee, also looking at the data from the survey to do that. I will be the only person communicating with all applicants throughout the process, except the board chair gets to make the happy phone call. I get to make all the other phone calls. The board chair gets to make the happy phone call. Although I get to call and schedule interviews. Those are usually happy phone calls, but he gets the happiest phone call. And then I will, obviously, you're not just hiring a person, you're not hiring a job, you're hiring a person. So we'll also look at assisting with onboarding of the new superintendent, also helping with the entry plan development. They will receive mentor support, and we'll assist in providing resources. So that's when I take off my consultant hat, put on my MSSA executive director. I will be all hands on deck for that new superintendent, helping them to get acclimated to the job if they're new to the position, or if they're new to the state, certainly making sure they have the supports that they need. So that is a real quick review of the superintendent search process.
Okay, do folks have questions? Because I think we have, either of those timelines are pretty aggressive, which is good, because we want to fill, if we have quality candidates, we want to have more staff.
I can slow that timeline down.
No.
Okay, but, and then one of the.
Or not yet, let's
Yeah,
talk first.
one of the, if we go back to the timeline, Diane, thank you. One of the issues we have with the timeline is working around Thanksgiving and the holidays. So if you look at the, on the right side, posting the position November 3rd, the survey opens the 4th, it closes the 25th, which is the Monday, I think, of Thanksgiving week. It might be the Friday before Thanksgiving. No, it's Monday, Thanksgiving week. Hiring committee is named the 1st, sorry about that, should be a 1, not an ist. Mandatory training per the policy would be the 9th. Applications close the 12th. Hiring committee screens the applications the 16th to the 19th. Then we don't do anything because we are in the holiday season. And then we have the first interview done by the hiring committee is the week of the 5th, and then the second interview is done by the board the week of the 12th. So either one of those obviously will work. The other question I have is, do you want the candidates to do a site visit here? That's rarely done, and but it is a question I always ask, which means the candidates would come, you would structure an interview with them. They'd come for half a day. They would meet staff. They would maybe have an open forum where they could answer questions from staff. The only downfall with that is that all of the candidates that are applying for this job are doing so with complete belief in confidentiality. So when I was superintendent of schools for 16 years in the Booth Bay region, when I looked at the job to be executive director at MSSA, I was curious. I was totally happy where I was. I loved what I was doing. I'd been the principal there for 10 years, so I had 25 years in that district. But I was curious. I was curious about what this job might be and whether I would be interested in doing it. So I threw my hat in the ring because I knew, absolutely knew, that it would be completely confidential, which it was. I didn't want the word getting back to my board and saying that, have you heard Eileen's applied? I didn't want my board to think that I was actively looking. It was like fishing. I was throwing my line in the water, just kind of seeing whether that was something that might hook me, and it did. But I did that under confidentiality. There are a lot of candidates that will not want to participate in a site visit because for fear they won't be the successful candidate. And am I sitting in your seat? So they won't apply. So that's one of the reasons I caution you about looking for having a site visit, because the candidates really want to make sure that they have confidentiality completely throughout the process, and that their name is not in a newspaper or does not get put on social media, that type of thing. I have not had a site visit in any of the searches I've done, and I haven't done all 90. My counterpart has done a lot of them too, so, and I don't think he didn't have any either, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
You read my mind on the question, because I would think that would limit. I mean, I've been a part of things where I've seen people, it's gotten out that they're applying for a job and they were let go pretty quickly. So,
Do you pay for the people to come from out of state?
So if you are interviewing an out-of-state candidate, you have two choices. One, you can have them Zoom in for the initial interview, which some districts do. Some districts want to have all of their interviews done in person to have fair interviews. And yes, I would recommend that you discuss compensating them for coming in.
Is sometimes a distinction made, you have a number of applicants, then you have your final interviews, which is a smaller pool. I've seen, that maybe it's done by Zoom initially for the final candidates, everyone comes in. Is that distinction ever made?
I would strongly recommend that you do everything in person.
Okay. That's nicer.
There's a whole different ambiance to Zoom versus in person. And the relationships that you develop in an interview and the feelings that you gather from a candidate in person is vastly different than what you would do via Zoom. You just don't have that connection, that sense of humor, that person that can respond to something with, in a way that makes you feel comfortable, makes them feel comfortable, that just doesn't get translated over Zoom.
I totally agree with that. People's body language and how they act means a lot. I think we've got to make either of those timelines, as I said. I mean, we don't got to get into the finite details, but things got to move pretty quick. I mean, the 17th's coming up, and November, I can't remember, November something, 3rd. So I think first we've got to make a decision on what timeline we want to go with. So, all right, well, someone want to make a motion? I want this all to be.
Yeah, I move that we go with the 17th schedule.
Second.
Sean Roderick, Chair, start the discussion.
So it's been moved by David, seconded by
Second.
Wendy. Further discussion?
Is it, I don't know if the prior job hunt, we used MSMA. Is it already decided that we're going with this and we're doing all the recommendations? I'm not arguing against it, I just didn't know if that.
I mean, we did vote to go, it was a board vote to go with
I recognize, I just didn't
MSMA.
know all the components and just want to make sure.
Right, I think the
I'm not
timeline, I'm not
disputing
saying we have to, we're not voting to do all, like, recommend?
The timeline that I put out with those activities is what I would recommend.
So I guess that's, yeah, we are. That's what we're
I mean,
doing.
if you're gonna go with MSMA,
Yep,
that's,
yep.
those
Yep.
are the, there's certainly NESDEC, and there's a couple other search firms that if you wanted to talk to them, then I'm sure they would wanna weigh in as well to what they do.
We've already voted,
That's what I thought,
the board's
right,
already voted to go there.
right.
So, further discussion? All right, all those in favor? I don't think anyone's online. Brian? Okay, Kristen is online now.
Oh.
Okay, sorry, she said she was gonna try. So, we gotta do a roll call vote, sorry, my apologies, I didn't know if she was gonna make it or not. So, yeah, if you wanna start.
All right, Wendy,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
David Gilmay,
Yes.
Annie, Dan Holman,
Yes?
Noah Easter,
Yes.
Leslie Marco,
Yes.
Patricia Clark,
Yes.
Chad White,
Yes.
Sean Roderick,
Yes.
Brian Tarbuck,
Yes.
David Twitchell, and David Twitchell online?
I don't believe, no David Twitchell.
Okay, that's it.
All
Oh,
right.
sorry, the student rep? No,
No.
okay. That's it.
All right, so it passes with all present. So then I would suggest the next step is I work with Eileen, tell me if I'm talking, discussion out loud, would be I would work with Eileen and Karen, in this case, and Leslie, to come up with the first, we need the job description by the 17th. We would get you all the materials you need. We have a board meeting the 15th. Like, I would send it to the board, like, I want open, I'm not, like, I get you want all decisions through the chair, but like, I will send it out, and you might have 24 hours to get back to me, but I do want people's input.
So
I'm
you
gonna make that very
probably have in your policy section CBR, I think it might be. Karen, I'm not sure if you have this, you probably have a superintendent job description in your policies. So that's something that you certainly could, that is what I would refer to right now as your job description.
Yeah,
I would reach out, I also need to have a name of a secretary that I can reach out to, that my staff can reach out to, that can get data that we need, that will, when we have the link for the survey done, and the survey is only 4 questions. We keep it very short, very sweet. I would strongly recommend that she would send it to all the town offices to make sure that they send it out to their folks, out to your PTA, out to your parents groups, whatever parent groups you have, out to your staff. So I'm gonna need someone to help coordinate that, because I will send it to her and she will make sure it gets out.
yep, we can get, yeah, we'll get you that info.
Okay, so your job description should be in your policy manual, so that's what I would refer to as your job description. And then the ad, I will create the ad and then send it out to you.
Yep. So as I said, you know, folks know, don't reply all. We can't do board business outside of the boardroom. I want to remind you of that. It's tempting sometimes to do that, but I share that way in the spirit of sharing. But I will say, like, if you have any input, so, because this is an aggressive timeline, you've got 24 hours to get back to me, so. All right. So we're good for now with the superintendent search. Next, we're gonna do the roles of the school board.
So in your packet on the right-hand side, you should have a PowerPoint, Diane, thank you. And you also have a list of materials. So you're looking for these 2 documents, and we're gonna be projecting on the screen as well. Don't worry, I'm not gonna go through all of it. I did put together, kind of like when Sean and I talked a couple weeks ago, I did put together the workshop. I believe some of you have attended before. We've changed it just a little bit. but it's really about the roles and responsibilities of a school board member. I think this is a perfect time as you look to hiring your new superintendent to really understand what your roles, responsibilities are, and how to stay in your own lane. So we're going to start with that. And the outcomes for the training, and that's the next slide, Diane, is to help you have a deeper understanding of your role as a board member, to gain clarity about how you and the superintendent of schools function together, really understand that the success of the board is closely tied to the success of each board member, and that the way the board operates will influence the level of trust that your schools and the community have in you. And it's one of the most important things that I feel I can share, and I can tell this story now using school names, is that the culture that you establish here, the trust that you demonstrate for your administrators, the understanding of chain of command and what your role is and is not, establishes a culture. And that culture that's established here does permeate into the schools. Prior to coming to Maranacook, I worked in a school district out of state, where I could tell you on Monday morning I was a teacher, and I could tell you there was going to be a board meeting that week, because the tension in the superintendent, in the principal's office was unbelievable. You could just feel it. When I came to Maranacook, I never knew when you guys had board meetings, because I never felt it, because there was such a positive culture established at the board level that permeated into the schools. So the culture that you set here is the culture that you want to make sure that is existing in your schools. The first thing I want to mention is the oath of office that you took when you ran for office, that you did swear that you would faithfully discharge to the best of your abilities the duties incumbent upon you as a school director according to the Constitution and the laws of the state. You took an oath of office. It's a solemn, binding oath. You took an oath of office to follow the Constitution and the laws of the state. And I always want to remind school board, because I think that happens quickly after you get into office, you take that oath, and sometimes our members seem to forget. Keeping in mind, all school boards and school committees in Maine are the governing bodies for all school administrative units. The Supreme Court bestowed that power on you, on school boards, many, many years ago, saying that everything, all education would be overseen by school boards. You do hold your statutory powers in Title 20A. That's the next slide, Diane. Title 20A, Section 1000. The nice thing about this presentation is none of this is opinion of Eileen King. It is all based in statute, and it's all based in your policy. And that's what I've done today, is I've pulled together your policy, and I've also identified statute, because that's your job description. One of the policies, if you go to the right side, one of the handouts I want to mention are the powers and duties of the school boards. It's handout number 1. And I tend to have the PowerPoint on the left and the handouts on the right side. So the powers and duties of school boards. These are your powers and duties. Legislative and policy making. You're responsible for the development of and adoption of policies upon the recommendation of the superintendent. We just recently had the legislative session ended. The laws, the policies that changed went into effect last week. We are developing some changes in policies that will be sent to your interim superintendent, that will be brought to the board for you to look at, either amending existing policies or adding new policies. Here's an example. There's what I call the cell phone policy, is that you're going to need to have a policy regarding the use of cell phones in schools by August of 2026. It doesn't tell you what you have to say. It doesn't tell you what you have to do. It just says you need to have a policy that addresses the use of cell phones. That's a year from now. There's another one dealing with the temperatures in school buildings. That right now has been passed, and once again, it's an open-ended policy that allows you to make decisions based on the age of your buildings, the size of your buildings, the height of your buildings, that type of thing. So it certainly is local control at its best, but that's a policy that you're going to have to be paying attention to. The most important thing is policy making, and that those policies guide the direction and tell the administrators and the superintendent and the teachers and you how everyone should be doing the work of leading this district. You're also responsible for requiring reliable information from responsible resources. I live on a peninsula that's 12 miles off of Route 1. In the wintertime, you would think I'm on an island 50 miles off of Route 1. But Hannaford is the gathering place for all things in my town, and that's not a place to gather reliable information from responsible sources. Making sure that when you do get information, it's here in the boardroom. It's here through presentations, and it's not through social media. It's not at a store. So making sure that overseeing educational programs with good information based on the data that you're getting through presentations from your staff. Your only employee, the only person that you employ is your superintendent. You have one employee. Everyone else works for the superintendent. That's a real hard concept for a lot of board members when they think that they oversee all the employees. They don't. You have one employee. That's in statute. It's in section 1000 in Title 28. You are responsible for establishing salaries through collective bargaining agreements and other terms of employment conditions through collective bargaining agreements, but you have one employee, and that's the employee that you evaluate. That's the employee that you oversee. There are times when you will function as a quasi-judicial and you're acting as a court of appeals when you're dealing with a personnel situation, or possibly when you have a expulsion hearing. And that's when quite often you will be kept not in the dark, but you won't get your board chair will have more information than anyone else because he's going to help the superintendent plan that type of court hearing, whether there'll be lawyers involved, that type of thing. But you need to remain unbiased so that you can hear both sides of the case openly and without bias, and that you can make the best decision based on what you hear here, not social media, not at a supermarket. Obviously, you're responsible for preparing and presenting a budget to the public. The preparation is not your job. It is the superintendent's job and the finance director's job. The superintendent brings the budget to you. You then spend weeks, months, however long you spend discussing your budget, deciding what you can best bring to your taxpayers for support to get a budget passed. You know what your communities can support, but you also, number one, responsibility is to the students in your district and making sure that they're getting the educational programs, commensurate with their needs. School facilities, making sure that you oversee school facilities, the planning, expansion of, I would recommend that you have, kind of a 3 to 5 year facilities plan, so you can plan for the aging parts of your school district. Once again, that data should come from your facilities person, bring you a presentation, and based on that data, you make that decision. And then communication with the public. It is the board chair's job to be your chief communicator with the public, but it is important to make sure that the public does get regular communications from the board, whether it's by doing these types of online presentations or whether it's by another means, but making sure that the community is understanding. We are starting a superintendent search. I will write a series of letters to Sean to send out that will announce the superintendent search, will announce the process, will invite the community to maybe express interest in serving. There's a variety of different ways, and that will be communication that I will provide for Sean and Leslie to send out. The next handout is your policy BBA in your handout, handout number 2. Basically, you'll have general charge of all public schools. The second paragraph in the first sentence, the board shall concern itself primarily with broad questions of policy rather than administrative details. The board is responsible for making sure that the schools are well run. The superintendent runs the schools. And that will be said several times throughout this. Your framework is working within the framework of laws, court decisions, attorney general opinions, and obviously state and national mandates. This policy is, you can look at the very bottom, and I always like to point this out, your legal reference is Title 28, MRSA, Section 1001, 1476, and it's cross-referenced with the curriculum development adoption. This has been revised in 09, 18, and 24. And so this policy is based on statute. You enact policy, you select, employ, and evaluate the superintendent. You provide for, obviously, expansion of the system, minimum standards for efficient operation improvement of school system. You oversee the maintenance of records, accounts, and archives. You approve the budget and finance reports and audits that come before you. You estimate the funds necessary from taxes for the operation, support, maintenance, and improvement of the school system. So that becomes a delicate balance. That was a very hard thing as a superintendent, was to bring forward a budget that met the needs of our students, but also was respectful of the financial needs of the towns that I represented. You adopt courses of study. This does not mean that you select books. It means that if you are going to be doing a new course of study, a new foreign language, or a new STEAM or STEM program, or if you're going to develop a new outdoor learning program, that needs to be adopted by the board. So new programs need to be adopted by the board. You provide, obviously, you provide for staff and instructional aids. You evaluate educational programs to determine the effectiveness in which the schools are achieving the educational purpose of the school system. You provide for the dissemination of information relating to the schools, obviously to keep the public well informed. And you approve or disapprove nominations from the superintendent. So let's talk about approval of nominations. Obviously, I said you have one employee, and that is your superintendent. There's a three-step process to hiring staff in all districts. Number one, obviously, is that there's going to be an interview committee put together. Let's say you have a third grade opening, an interview committee will be put together. The principal will put together a hiring committee. That hiring committee will then interview the candidates and will make a recommendation, either one person or two, whatever the process is in the district, to the superintendent. The superintendent will then make a final decision and will bring that person to you. You can't hire anyone without the superintendent bringing a name forward. That would come forward to you. You would approve or disapprove. If you approve, then the superintendent then would offer the contract to that person. So that's a three-step process that takes place. Look, no one can get hired without the superintendent bringing that person to you. And then if that person would not get hired if you don't approve of the nomination. Once again, policies are required to be followed at all times by all people in its entirety. You can't pick and choose which policies you want to follow. I did have a school board ask me several years ago if they could rescind a policy because it was going to go against the decision they wanted to make that night in the board meeting, and then could they put it back in place at the next meeting? No, you can't do that. It did happen. So what's really important to point out here is that it's important for board members to follow the policies that pertain to you. You expect your teachers to follow the teacher's contract. You expect your principals to enforce the teacher's contract. You expect your principals to also enforce policy as it pertains to them. You expect your superintendent to enforce the teacher's contract. You expect the superintendent to also make sure the policy is followed. If those are your expectations, then you need to model that, and you need to be modeling and following policy. There'll be parts of policies that you're probably going, oh, I'm not sure I agree with this, but it was voted on the board October 8th of 2024, and until it's changed, this is what you follow. Back to the next handout. I'm going to go to handout number 3, and then I'll go back to the PowerPoint. Handout number 3 is also policy BDD. Legal reference is MRSA 401, Title 20A, MRSA Section 1001, 1051, 13201, 13301. The reason I do this is not a presentation based on my opinion. This is a presentation based on statute. It's also cross-referenced to a variety of policies that you have already adopted. BBA was the one that we just went over. BCA is one I'm going to go over next, the Board Code of Ethics. CB, the school superintendent, and looky here, CBR, the superintendent job description. So you do have that policy that will be used in the ad when we post the position. So the board believes that exercising its legislative function through policymaking is your most important responsibility. The next sentence, first paragraph, the management of the schools is the function of the superintendent. And the board holds the superintendent responsible for complying with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations. And that you do understand that the superintendent may delegate certain responsibilities to other personnel. It doesn't relieve the superintendent of the final responsibilities when they do delegate. But the board collectively and its individual members shall recognize the superintendent as the educational leader of the school unit, provide direction for the superintendent through written policies. That's why your written policies are so important. Over objectives and goals for the school unit. You will give the superintendent full administrative authority and support for properly doing his job or her job. Hold all board meetings in the presence of the superintendent unless otherwise agreed upon. Refer complaints, criticism, requests to the superintendent or other appropriate personnel. Your job is not to fix things. You're going to get people coming to you and complaining about where my child was placed, or what's going on in a classroom, or my kid's not getting enough playing time, or whatever the complaint is. Your job then is to say, thank you for bringing this to my attention. Have you spoken to whoever would be the lowest common denominator? Have you spoken to the principal? Did you speak to Ms. King about this? Does she know that you have these concerns? And then you also should call the superintendent and let the superintendent know you received this complaint. My pet peeve as a superintendent was that if there was a complaint out there in the community and it didn't get to me, it could fester and could grow and could become a problem that it didn't need to become if I had known and was able to get my hands on it and do my work to find out if there was an issue and what it was, and then address it as quickly as possible. So your job, I had a board member call me a couple years ago, and just to let me know, thank me for a presentation. This is when I wonder whether I do a decent job or not. Thank me for the presentation, and that she had gotten a complaint, and I just had said pretty much the same thing. And she was gonna take that parent into the classroom and she was gonna address it with the teacher. I was like, no, that's not what you do. You do have a public complaint policy, and the policy is to make sure that the complaints are addressed at the lowest common denominator. It can rise up if it's not addressed, but it needs to get to the superintendent so the superintendent can look into that situation or have someone look into it. And then evaluate the superintendent. You do evaluate the superintendent, that is your one employee, and provide opportunities for the superintendent to share his or her perceptions with you. This is a two-way street. This has got to be a trusting relationship if this is going to work. So if you're going to evaluate the superintendent, you need to say to the superintendent what's working for you and what's not. And you need to have a candid conversation. Because sometimes, you know, a board member sending a superintendent 6 emails a day saying, I want this data, I want this information. The superintendent doesn't work for one of you. He or she works for all of you. So when you want that type of data, go to your board chair and say, this is the data I'm interested in. And then the superintendent and the board chair could decide to put it on an agenda, to get it out to all of you. But the superintendent cannot possibly do their job if they're responding to 13 of you and several emails, even a week. So making sure that, you know, that would be something that I would have said to my board, saying, you know, I'm getting a lot of individual requests for data. If you could filter those through the board chair, that'd be really helpful. And that actually did happen. And once they didn't mean to, but once they did that. So that is policy handout number 3. If we go back to the PowerPoint, the next page, Diane. So effective board members understand you serve as a member of team. Obviously, I know this is an old saying, there is no I in team. You serve as a member of the team. You have no authority except when you're acting as part of the majority of the board. The only authority you have is sitting here in this boardroom, except, like tonight, you're going to give your board chair the authority to work closely with me through the superintendent search. It doesn't mean he's going to make any major decisions. These are going to be procedural decisions. These are going to be timing decisions. These are going to be, okay, let's do this at this time and this at that time. Or when, let's say, you're going into negotiations and you're going to have the board is a negotiating team, you're going to assign some individuals to serve on the negotiating team. You're going to give the board, those members of the negotiating team, you're going to give them authority to make decisions on your behalf. based within the parameters that you give them. So you're going to say, we want the salaries to come in between this and this percentage. We might want to look at some of the language here, maybe possibly get it to here. We might want to look at health insurance, whatever it is. You need to give them some parameters so that they can negotiate fairly and effectively within the parameters from the board. So that is when you do have authorities outside the boardroom. The next slide, and I went over policy BDD. So keep going, Diane, thanks. Maintaining clear roles and responsibilities between you and the superintendent yields trusts and requires clear communication among school board members and the superintendent. The main person to contact the superintendent is your board chair. My board chair, I was in an AOS, which they call an alternative organizational structure. I call it the atrocious organizational structure because I had 6 school boards, 6 districts under my supervision. So imagine doing this 6 times a month. But my board chairs were a saving grace because I would call them first. If something came up, I needed to run something by them. I ran a lot of things by the board chair. So that was the person I communicated with the most in between board meetings. So the next 2 slides give you the responsibilities of school boards and the responsibilities of superintendents. This really is talking about your lanes and how you can stay in your lanes. So the school board, you're going to set the vision, mission, and goals for the district. You establish policies. You're going to hear that word again and again and again. You approve the annual budget. You hire, evaluate, and support the superintendent. You approve curriculum and graduation requirements. You authorize contracts, obviously the collective bargaining contract. You authorize personnel nominations, and you ensure safe, supportive, and equitable learning environments, and you represent the community's values and interests. Those are the duties of the responsibilities. Those go in line with the first handout that I gave to you as far as the summary of what your roles and responsibilities are. So the superintendent acts as your chief executive officer. She will implement the policies that you adopt. So basically, if you think of a roadmap, you're looking at a map saying, we want to go here. The superintendent is going to decide how to get there and who is going to get them there and how that's going to happen. So you set the direction, the superintendent is going to figure out how to carry out your direction. Superintendent prepares and manages the district budget, recruits, supervises, and evaluates all staff, provides curriculum leadership, or if that's delegated to a curriculum coordinator. The superintendent oversees and his staff or her staff facilities operation and safety, keeps the board informed and makes professional recommendations and engages with staff, families, and communities, obviously on behalf of the district. Once again, your job is to ensure the schools are well managed. It's the superintendent's job to manage the schools. And that is that chain of command I mentioned. So knowing your lane is you will recognize that your responsibility is not to operate the schools, but to see they're well operated. I briefly spoke about the role of the board chair, that he serves as the official spokesperson for the board. He works closely with the superintendent in setting meeting agendas and having phone calls to address issues that may arise, presides over board meetings, makes sure that there is effective board governance, acts as liaison between the board and the superintendent. One of the things I always say to boards, and I always said this to my board, is that silence means consent. So if there's something that's being discussed on the floor, questions are being asked, and you don't participate in that conversation, to me, that means you're hunky-dory with it. You're all good with it. It's disconcerting to find out afterwards that you didn't like it at all and you didn't speak up. So that's the board chair's job, is to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak up and to weigh in on a matter that's being discussed. The next is that the assigns or appoints members to committees. So I would say behave yourself and be on his good side because you might get appointed to a committee. Represents the board, that was supposed to be funny, represents the board of official functions, community events, leads the board in its responsibility to evaluate the superintendent. That will be led by the board chair, and then ensures that ensures the board speaks with one voice once decisions are made. So there are going to be times when not everyone agrees on a decision that's being made. Once the board votes, and this is where you are part of a team, once the board votes on a motion and the motion passes, that is the work of the board. Going into town, complaining to your neighbors, complaining at a baseball game, complaining at a gas station, complaining wherever you complain, just diminishes and deteriorates the culture of the board. Once you've made that decision, if you disagree, the best thing you can do is to say, what do I need to do to make sure that this decision is as successful as possible? There's no I in team. You are a team. Your job is to take care of your community's most precious commodities, and that's the children. So you need to remove yourself from the disappointment that you didn't get your way, and then say, this was a board decision. I'm part of this board. What do I now do to make sure that this decision is as successful as possible? And that's the board chair's job is to also make sure that that happens. And sometimes those discussions can be difficult, but you're not going to accomplish anything by dissing the board, putting the board down, putting board members down, and criticizing decisions the board make. The majority of the board speaks here, and then you all need to, all hands on deck to make that decision as successful as possible. The next handout I want to talk about, I won't go through this completely in its entirety, is your code of ethics. Policy, you must follow your policy. This is policy. You view your service on the board as an opportunity to serve your community, state, and nation, that because you believe that public education is the best means to promote the welfare of our people and preserve a democratic way of life. You'll think of children first. That's a no-brainer. You'll make no disparaging remarks in or out of board meetings about other board members and their opinions. You have no legal authority outside of board meetings. Your responsibility is not to operate the schools, but to see they're well operated. Make sure that you provide education for all children in the community, can measure it with their needs and abilities. You're going to listen to the communities, listen to your citizens, but refer the complaints to the proper authorities, and make sure the superintendent is aware of those complaints. H, you will support a decision made by the majority of the board graciously. It's in policy. You need to follow your policy. Once again, if you expect everyone else to follow contracts, policies, you need to follow your policies. And H is the one that we just talked about. You will not criticize employees publicly, but if you have concerns, you make those concerns open to the superintendent. You're going to make decisions openly based on the facts that you've heard here at the board meeting. So please make sure you tone out those phone calls you might get or that tap on the shoulder you might get somewhere else. Please make sure that you make your decisions based on what you hear at the board meeting. You won't make promises on how you're going to vote prior to an issue being discussed. You will not discuss the confidential business of the board. And there's a lot of confidential business that comes before you in executive session that must stay confidential. For example, superintendent search. Those of you that will be serving on the superintendent search will be serving on the hiring committee or the board that will be doing the last interview as part of the superintendent search. That information is confidential forever. You can't even say, oh, the last time we hired a superintendent, Eileen, she applied for that job. I remember that. Nope, can't say that. You can't refer to anything that happened. It's all confidential. So make sure that you keep that in mind. You'll combine your action to policymaking, planning, and leaving the administration of the schools to the superintendent. Obviously, welcome and encourage participation by teachers when you bring them here for any kind of educational presentation. You'll make sure that the schools have adequate financial support within the capabilities of the community, and resist every temptation and outside pressure to use your position to benefit yourself. Not calling the coach asking for more playing time, not calling the high school principal asking to make sure your son or daughter gets put into an AP class. I had one board member call my principal when I was working out of state asking the principal to change the grade. That does happen. You want to make sure that you attend every board meeting and that you are prepared for every board meeting, and that you recognize that you are, as a school board, you are a member, that you are an agent of the state, and that you will abide by the laws of the state and regulations formulated by the Department of Ed and the State Board of Education. Once again, that goes back to your oath of office that you took. I'm going to very quickly wrap this up because I know you have a full meeting ahead of you. A word about email. Diane, can you keep going, please? Next one. One more, yep. Email and social media. I've always said, when I did this, for years I did this presentation, I always said, I'm going to take that Ghostbusters sign of the ghost with the X through it. Just don't. Please don't use email for anything other than we're having a board workshop, we're going to discuss a superintendent search of the board workshop. Email should not be used as a means to discuss board business. Board business must be discussed at a publicly held board meeting. And social media, stay away from it. Don't get into conversations on social media about school board business or about school business. If someone says, post something, and it's a friend of yours, that the beginner band, the other concert the other night was awesome, yes, you can like it, but please do not get into a debate via social media. Number one, you have no authority to engage in that debate, and number two, it just never goes well. I had a situation where at a board meeting, there was a discussion that was held, and someone that watched it on TV, I don't know, they didn't watch the whole thing or didn't understand it, but the next day, my secretary walked up to my desk like this. I knew it was never good news. So I probably said something obnoxious like, what gift did social media give to me today? And she turned in, she said, well, so-and-so was really upset about the Board of Trustees meeting last night, and it's all over social media. So I called them, and I said, I understand you have a question or some concerns. Would you like to come in and talk about it? And he was rather surprised that I had seen it, because obviously we weren't friends on social media, and so we talked about it, and at the end, he thanked me and understood that, he probably shouldn't have done that he had sent a lot of misinformation out, and it wasn't helpful to the culture and the climate of the building, of the district. And he actually did a beautiful post afterwards thanking me for calling him, but he had done a lot of damage in the meantime. So just stay away from social media. If you see something that you know is inaccurate, bring it to the right authorities, bring it to your superintendent, let your superintendent pick up the phone and make that phone call. And, it goes a long way when you want to meet with someone for coffee, or you want to sit down and you invite them into your office, or you say, if you don't have time, let's talk now. So just please don't engage in use of email to discuss board business, or in the use of social media to discuss board business, or to engage in complaints about the district, but make sure people are aware that's going on. Obviously, public concerns and complaints, we talked about that, and last thing is the board evaluation. If you have not done a board self-evaluation, I would recommend that you do so at the end of the year this year. We have a lot of information that we can share, that you can actually take a look at your role as board members, how you function as a board, and actually identify some areas that you may want to be more consistent, address your strengths, and then also address your needs. So that was...
Yeah. Well, while we have thank you so much. Do board members have questions on anything that may not be covered or want to expand upon? David?
Yeah, a couple things. This time, some teacher will say, come visit us in the classroom. What's the best policies for school board members visiting schools?
Don't.
Okay.
Don't visit schools. That's that chain of command. You're the big boss, and you have one employee, and that's the superintendent. Now, if you get invited in to a school, absolutely be there. But for you to go in and what are you doing there? The job of the superintendent, and I'm not asking you directly. The job, I'm sorry, what are you doing there? So the job of the superintendent is to evaluate its programs, it's to evaluate its staff, and to be in buildings. Now, if there's a program going on and you get an invitation to attend, please attend. That sends a huge message. If a classroom teacher invites you in to be part of a debate because you have a specialty in that, that's a perfect thing. But it is not the role, it's not your lane. If you go back and look at the roles of the school board responsibilities and roles of the superintendent's responsibilities, never does it say the school board shall walk through school buildings to evaluate the school. That's not your job. It's very clear in your policies and in statute that that is the superintendent's job. If you get invited, please go. But just showing up, it's unnerving to the principals. They don't know why you're there. It's unnerving to teachers. They don't know why you're there. And as I said, there's that chain of command. And you leapfrogging the superintendent, leapfrogging the principal, and going in, you're not in your lane, and you're violating your own policies.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Eileen?
Other things I want to just make sure you know, Sean keeps hoping I'm going to wrap up, but I can keep going for a while. Your code of ethics and Robert's Rules of Order here is a handout. This is going to be a very shameless plug for Maine School Management's Fall Conference, which is coming up in October 23rd and 4th. We have 72 clinics. One is specifically on First Amendment rights. Another is specifically on Robert Rules of Order, so if that's something that you're interested in, we do have 2 sessions on that. We have 71 sessions from legal clinics to academic clinics to boardsmanship clinics, so we're really excited about that, and I hope to see you there. And then there's a couple other handouts that I just want to make sure you are aware, and maybe not in there. Public comment at board meetings. There is a handout on board self-evaluation at the very end if you want to take a look at that. And there's a policy on that is a sample policy. I'd recommend that maybe you take a look at that as well and incorporate that into your overall evaluation system. So when you're evaluating your principal, you're also taking time to evaluate yourself as a school board member. And now I'm really done.
So policy committee, I like that idea. So, and I will see you at the board chair training, I'm sure.
I actually,
Oh, you
no, Eric, so as you know, we've had a change over at Maine School Management. Eric Waddell is the executive director of the Maine School Board Association, and he will be running, and executive director of Maine School Management, he'll be running the board chair. On the 22nd, I have all of my best friend superintendents with me for a day.
Gotcha.
And we have a workshop that day that will go easily into that board training. I'll probably drop in because I think there's some really good cookies there, so I'll be looking in to get some cookies there. But that certainly is for board chair and vice chair, or anyone, if you can't make it or the vice chair can't make it, anyone that you might want to send in your place just to learn more about being board chair.
Leslie and I plan to attend. I can't attend the conference because I'm gone, but I can attend that, so.
Well, I have attended many times and you get a lot, I love going every year.
We have Joe Sanfilippo, who was a keynote speaker in 2019 that spoke with superintendents that day. He was incredibly dynamic. Last year we did a 3-hour keynote. This year we're only doing a 1-hour keynote, so we're going to get back into the cadence because we had a lot of feedback that 3 hours was a bit much. And then the second day, our end note speaker is Alyssa Mazzuti. I know I just butchered her name. She's from a group called A Day in AI, and it's really an overview for AI for school board members. And she'll be doing a couple breakout sessions on AI as far as what that can look like successfully, proactively, and productively in schools. So it's really running the gamut this year. School safety, I mean, I should have brought a list, but so. And Karen, don't forget to sign up for Wednesday, the 22nd.
Yes.
And we're gonna talk about who wants to go and all that stuff tonight, so, good
All right.
segue.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much. I
much.
look forward to working. I think that's it. That's it.
I had a question.
Oh, David, I didn't realize you were online, so, perfect, go ahead.
That's okay. I wasn't there at the start. Sorry.
Yeah,
My
good.
question is on the board self-evaluation. We have been doing that for years, but I wish at my job I did my own self-evaluation. I have been pushing for a number of years for us to be a community evaluation. Do you have comment on that? Why it is bad or good or what about that?
Actually, I've never been asked that question, and I've never actually considered a community evaluation. There certainly could be a community survey that you could look at so I'm talking off the top of my head. So you could have a community survey to gather feedback, but I would strongly make sure that you align it to the same feedback that you're going to gather from a self-evaluation from your board. So you don't want to get in a situation where you're asking different questions from different people. You want to align whatever survey you do for community feedback to make sure that aligns with the self-evaluation feedback, so that you're asking the same questions, and then you're not getting you're not asking different questions and getting different answers. I don't know if that makes a sense, David.
It sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, great to see all of you.
Good to see you. We're gonna take a 3-minute recess. Thanks. Thank you. That was a lot of information at once, so I figured a little break would be good. Next up, we have citizens' comments. I don't know if anyone's signed up. Luke, do you mind? Or Mandy's got it. If there's anyone online, please send a message or raise your hand that wants to comment to Diane. So we have no one signed up, and we have no one that wants to do public comment online. All right, we will move along. We will move along to reports. Are there any celebrations this evening? All right.
Hello. So I just wanted to report out that Mount Vernon Elementary is taking on bar for this year, and we were lucky enough to have our full training last month. This past Monday, we had our first school-wide U-Time lesson, and we have started all of our bar team meetings this week. So they're going well. Everyone's on board. We also kicked off the year by celebrating our attendance this September. For the month of September, we had 53 students that earned entry into a drawing for free Frosties by achieving perfect attendance with absolutely no tardies. At our den meeting on Friday, we drew 5 lucky winners, so that was exciting. We're off to a good start. Thank you.
Great to hear.
At Manchester Elementary School, we had a unique invitation in the end of the summer. It might have been the 3rd week of August. I got a random email, which once in a while happens with a wonderful surprise. The email was from Kitty Feld, and she is a national podcast producer. Lives in California, and most of her production work is in California, but she vacations on Lake Maranacook. And she asked, while she was here in the town, would anyone be willing to contribute to this national podcast called Book Kids Club. And so we went online and checked out the validity of that, and there are like 100 different podcasts. The idea is children in 5th, 6th, or 7th or 8th grades all read a book in a book discussion format. They discuss the book, and then Kitty comes in and interviews the kids she really continues the book discussion with the students. And then it's published as a national podcast. So I reached out to a classroom teacher who I thought had some courage, and Mrs. Whitney is just an amazing lady with 22 kids. She accepted this challenge with had to be finished by the end of September. So we quickly went back and forth of which book to choose. Had to be an unknown book that hadn't yet been done as a podcast, and then we had to purchase 22 copies of the same book so that it could be done as a whole class book discussion. And so with the help of special educator Amy Chaplin, they cranked out an entire book with all of one class in book discussion format. And then they used a selection process of which 4 students, Kitty only wanted 4 students to contribute. And so they had a criteria. The students voted themselves on which students would be most likely to really fully engage and fully participate in the book discussion. And they chose 4 students. So she came last Friday on the 26th and spent a few hours in the library recording their conversation and discussion, and then asked each child their favorite book and why. So it will soon be published as a national podcast. The other part that, in Equity for All Kids, because they all contributed in all red, is that our own tech integrator, Amanda Levesque, will be coming in and doing podcasts in a similar fashion with all of the students, so they'll all get to participate, and that will be shared out to their families through Seesaw or something. So it was a great integration of a very rich literacy practice, as well as integration of technology in the present world.
That's really cool.
That's cool.
I look forward to listening. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I look forward to it.
I don't know, Jeanette, did you want to?
Yeah.
Good evening, Jeanette Jacobs, Wayne Elementary Principal. So tomorrow night, all the elementary schools will be having their annual Title I meetings. It's a different format. We'll be holding them in our own schools, which we're excited about. And to celebrate at Wayne, last year we actually applied and were awarded a free little library. All the other elementary schools have one. So it was exciting to be able to get one of those. And for folks who don't know, it's just a little box that sits outside your school, and it makes books accessible for students at any point over the summer or throughout the day. So it really increases access to books for students. And with the free little library, we were also donated 200 books from Penguin Random House. So it's a great selection. I've been pawing through. I can't wait to share them with students. And so we'll be opening that up tomorrow night.
That's cool. Anyone else? Mr. Gosling, go ahead, sir.
Chris Goslin, proud assistant principal at the middle school. You know, today I don't have anything technical to share, but what I do want to share is that our middle school has happy kids. Our middle school has kids that are kiddos, students who are engaged, who love where they are, despite the changes, despite the side steps, despite all the little pieces that come about through our process. But the major piece was, how are our kids doing? And that's where I am. They're amazing. They're celebrating. They're happy. Our sports teams are doing amazing. Sports teams are having fun. Our new math curriculum is coming into some like little roadblocks, but we're finding solutions. And we're looking forward to the future. And our future is bright, and that's very important for us to know. Our families are happy. Yes, there are some that are just like scratching their heads like we all do, but that's what it's about. That's what we do. And I'm proud to be able to be part of this process. So that's where we are. Oh, last thing. Thank goodness for Michelle and Cal. The three of us put together just make a real nice little combination of what we do here, you know? And it brings me back to why I'm here. And that's the community, that's the kids, that's the teachers, and that's what we're about. So that's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gosling, for sharing. Anyone else? Well, kind of echoing what Mr. Gosling said, I just came from a cross-country meet. Maranacook Middle School cross-country has 47 kids on the team. We have athletes that finish second to athletes that finish 47th. But all the kids, it was pretty cool. I tried to video it, but I kind of failed. That were cheering for all the kids. It was just really cool. If you haven't been to a middle school cross-country meet, it'll make you feel better about society. I really mean that.
Nice.
It was just amazing. Kids were lined in the woods. It was really cool. And Mr. LaJoy has 47 kids, and he's the only coach, and he makes all those kids feel special. It's pretty cool. And then the second thing was, I got contacted by the Madison football coach, And he felt the need, I didn't know him, I know one of the coaches on Madison, but wanted to tell me how proud he was of the Marina Cook kids. They faced a lot of injuries during the game on Friday night and throughout the season. He's like, they never gave up. He's like, some of my kids were acting like boneheads and they were positive, like those were his words, maybe he used other words, but positive role models, and your fans stayed to the end. So I thought that was pretty cool that he did that. So I wanted to share that. So then we got, oh, and the last thing about podcasts, there's a radio show. No, Jen Worthing invited me to come to the community cafe on the 9th, and I'll be speaking at that about how awesome it is to come to school board meetings and how to reach out to folks and all that cool stuff. But also Reedfield has a radio show they're gonna be starting up, and they asked me to participate in some shows, so be prepared, Chad, for me to invite you on to come on with me and talk about some awesome things. So I'm gonna be taking part in a few of those as well.
It
So
started already.
yeah, it may have. My schedule is pretty crazy. So yeah, but they've invited me to do some shows. So I'm gonna try to make it fun. So if anyone has any ideas, I know Mr. Boston likes to talk, so I can have him on maybe. We can make it fun. So yeah. So Mr. Tarbuck.
I don't have any podcast information apart from whatever I hear from my wife who's into it, but she calls this Dak Shepard guy, have you guys heard? Well, anyway, Marina Cook graduate Tim Simons was on there last week, and he didn't mention Marina Cook by name, but he did shame another community nearby, which I thought was pretty good. So anyway, I have nothing to do with that, but if you follow Dak Shepard at all and want to hear a funny podcast, Tim Simons, he's a really tall guy in Beep, if you remember that a few years ago. Ron Sims, yeah. That's what I got for podcast updates.
His father was a teacher here. He was also very.
His mom was
in the
awesome.
front office.
It's a small world. All roads lead back to Marina Cook. All right, reports. I encourage you to read them. You learn a lot from reading them. I know there's some new board members, and you might be like, oh, there's all this information, but there's a lot in there. People put a lot of time into it. I read them. Sometimes I resort back to them. I keep having the folder that Dr. Smith and Amy and whoever else was involved in creating that's helpful, because I found myself going back to that when people might reach out to me for questions or I'm getting ready for the board meeting. So that's been extremely helpful. And I know that's a work in progress. So thank you for everyone involved in that. But I really encourage folks to read those reports because a lot of the answers to your questions may be in there.
Just had one question about it. There was a comment in the Massa report about a recent school board meeting and comments from a survey. Isn't that survey public? This is the so-called survey that everybody's been talking about for months. I mean, I've got it, so it's got to be public. They said it wasn't supposed to be public and you're going to hold people. Anyway, did anybody else find that to be strange? I found that to be strange. Anybody? Nobody? Just me?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. No, it was strange to see that comment, and I didn't understand contextually because this is a matter of public record. They said about someone reading something that was public record. Anyway, just thought it was weird.
You're always welcome to reach out to Jill if you want more.
I was just curious if anybody else
I got a question
Yep.
from the superintendent's report. It had the MEA science results. And I'm just curious, last meeting, looking, and the middle school was performing most poorly relative to the others on math, but in science, what you see is associated. The middle school was the one school that was meeting goals, and just made me go like, huh. So I'm just curious from your thoughts on that, because that just is an interesting juxtaposition to me.
As to,
The math scores, the school that is the one doing well science by the standards was also performing most poorly in math. What you think of math as a language of science, not so much at the school level, but still connected. And so I'm really asking a question, just it just made me curious. So I don't, it's not a pointed question trying to get, like, just your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that that is a pattern that's across the state. It's not just
See, I don't
exclusive
see
to
the
Marana
others.
Cook Middle School. If you go on like the data dashboard, you
Yeah.
can see that math scores trend across the state. At the middle school level, they decline. It's not just a Marana Cook phenomenon. And that also, you can see the science scores are also kind of reflect that same pattern.
So statewide, that's also that there's a up bump in middle school? So that was looking, okay, well, that would explain that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, sorry to Peyton and Lucas. Usually you guys are early on in the agenda, so a little different tonight, so my apologies. So we have 2 student reps from the high school here tonight. No, middle school, sorry, I promoted you, I wasn't, my apologies. So 1 from the middle school and 1 from Lucas, middle school, so see, I butchered it. I didn't have a script to go by, so from the middle school. So Mr. Goslin, do you want to introduce or? Yes, my apologies on that.
My error on that one. That was on my list. Again, Chris Goslin, a proud assistant principal. I want to introduce Lucas Giles and Peyton Danforth as our illustrious and amazing student representatives here to the board. We are proud to have you here, and we are proud for you to represent our middle school. They have, this is our first night with them, and they are going to just knock the ball out of the park. And they have some things that you want to share. Thank you.
All right, so if you want to go up together or separate, step on up to the mic. All right, yeah, rock, paper, scissors.
Right into the microphone.
Yeah, into the microphone because people are online too.
I'm from Newport, and I report for the
Try to
Royal
turn the mic
team.
a little.
Sorry. I report for the Royal team students. Wednesday, today, the Royal team was going outside with a Maine guide to build shelters and safety kits as a part of our survival unit that we are just now ending next week. It was very fun outside, and we got to meet guide Lauren DeGraff. She was a very good Maine guide. It was good.
Today, well, recently on Acadia, there was a community car wash that took place in Manchester for a team fundraiser. And the Acadia team would like to thank students and adults who attended, as well as the community members who made donations. Otherwise, Acadia is learning about history in forms like art and writing for this current unit.
The Katahdin team is doing a main students unit to start the year off, with students working on ELA reading Lost on the Mountain in Maine and working towards writing their own narrative stories. They are also developing math and geographic skills in their main government classes.
The Moose Island team is studying food. They are learning about consumer math, where our food comes from and how some foods have changed the world. They are excited to be including bar activities in their learning and also excited about having team celebrations. Moose also has a Panera Bread fundraiser night taking place on October 21st.
In PE, in the gym, we are finishing our soccer unit, and we've been testing our pacer, and we just tested our pacer and are trying to get faster by the end of the year by doing fitness runs.
Students in music are learning how to drum on buckets. They're learning different rhythms, strategies, and how to avoid accidentally causing self-injury or damage to drumsticks or buckets while drumming.
Students in health are wrapping up their first units. Students have been banked on their in their communication and developing their activities on listening strengths and understanding the 4 district communication styles.
Students in art classes are working in small groups to create something called a dream room, which is a sculpture that achieves visual unity while designing with client preferences and needs in mind. They use different sculpting techniques and problem solve with their peers. They're also learning about different career options in the world of art.
In the wellness, we have had a successful flu clinic, and Gwen, as a school counselor, has been meeting every day with advisory groups to get to know them and for them to get to know the wellness center better.
Currently this season, soccer and field hockey are taking place. Soccer and field hockey practices generally still happen at the end of every day except for Friday. Teams are learning usual tactics like working as a team, which involves skills like passing, shooting, and speaking to teammates during play. As of now, the boys A team has 4 wins and 1 loss. The boys B team has 4 wins. The girls A team has 2 wins and 2 losses. The B girls have 3 losses, and field hockey has 8 wins.
Cross country, they have been playing manhunt in the woods and running hill sprints to get better momentum on how they're supposed to be running up the hills.
Students in alternative classes have been painting rocks to resemble food, flowers, and animals. Also painting inspiring words on them, and then placing them around the campus. The activity is meant to make people smile and feel good.
In the BBAC, we are currently organizing the homecoming theme days for the middle school to look forward to and offering activities with the community service opportunities. The civil rights team is getting started. Recurring new members and planning for their annual day welcome in November. Sources of strength, they are trying to gather new people so that they can join and have better meetings and talk to more people.
The yearbook staff is currently getting started, and yearbooks can be purchased between now and October 31st for a discount. Interested parents or adults should check the daily bulletin in PowerSchool for additional information. And that's everything.
Thank you so much. Good job, guys. You guys want to go, you can, or you can stay. Either way. Okay, subcommittee updates. I know we wanted to make sure folks have taken a look at that schedule and all that. So those will be coming up. It's in your folder. So I don't know if you want to add anything else.
So facilities and transportation meeting is next Wednesday, and that will be at the central office, and the agenda should be coming out first thing in the morning to those on the Facilities and Transportation Committee. And then, as you can see, the meetings are scheduled pretty much every Wednesday. Before board meetings, they'll be at the middle school media center, or if it's not a board meeting week, it'll be at the central office.
Okay, thank you. So Be on the lookout for your emails for the subcommittee meetings.
Oh, and we'll create a separate folder in that drive for the subcommittees, and then there'll be subcommittee subfolders within there, and so you'll always have access to the agenda and notes for each, if whatever committee you're on, or if you want to look at the other committee notes.
Perfect. All right, we will move along to action items. Approval of minutes from 9/17/25.
I move we approve the minutes from 9/17/25.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll call for a roll call vote.
Wendy?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
David Gilman?
Yes.
Annie's absent still, right? She didn't come on. Dan Holman?
Yes.
Noah Easter?
Yes.
Leslie Marco?
Yes.
Patricia Clark?
Yes.
Chad White?
Yes.
Sean Roderick?
Yes.
Brian Tarbuck? David Twitchell?
Yes.
All right, unanimous, all those present. Acceptance of donations.
I move that we accept the donation.
Second.
Moved and seconded on the donations, discussion. Seeing none, we will call for a roll call vote.
Wendy?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
David G?
Yes.
Dan Holman?
Yes.
Noah Easter?
Yes.
Leslie Marco?
Yes.
Patricia Clark?
Yes.
Chad White?
Yes.
Sean Roderick?
Yes.
Brian Tarbuck?
Yes.
David Twitchell?
Yes.
All righty, next is C, approval of board goals. So I took all the notes, listened to discussion, typed these up, shared them with, just to tell you the process, with Leslie and Dr. Smith, made sure I didn't miss anything, asked their input. We all bounced back and forth, and I did share this with the board, so does anyone have any questions, comments? And we adopt these as a board, so I guess I'll look for a motion.
I move that we adopt these board of directors goals for 2025, 2026.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded, any discussion?
Just quickly, we should just circle back every quarter or so, just see how we,
Yep.
just even if it's 2 minutes. Just
Yep, nope, I like that idea. So if we can just make sure I get reminded, yeah, no, it's important, I like that a lot. Yeah, we'll just add that to the calendar, that those get on the agenda, so, perfect, thanks Brian for that. Any other discussion? All right, call for a roll call vote.
Wendy?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
David G?
Yes.
Dan Holman?
Yes.
Noah Easter?
Yes.
Leslie Marco?
Yes.
Patricia Clark?
Yes.
Chad White?
Yes.
Sean Roderick?
Yes.
Brian Tarbuck? David Twitchell?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, that was unanimous of all present. So, next is the technology lease. Yeah, technology lease. Mandy, do you want to go over that? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I mean, if you want to go over it just briefly, so everyone knows.
So this is the lease that we approved through the budget process, so that Diane can maintain adequate equipment for both students and staff. We have, I believe it's a 4 or 5 year plan, and every year we reevaluate that plan. Diane prioritizes based on needs of students first and staff. And so the approved amount has been $350,000, and we just have to go through the formal process. So I sent the bid out to 3 banks that usually participate in the bid. Well, I shouldn't say usually do. Northeast, the gentleman had worked for a previous bank and has asked me to continue to keep him on that because at some point they hope that they'll be doing government leases, but So the only two that we have been getting responses on is MCD Leasing, which used to be Gorham, and Androscoggin. And so those are the two that you see in the packet. Gorham came in with the lower interest rate, so we're recommending we move forward with Gorham. Because the lease purchase is over $100,000, we have to have legal opinion from Drummond Woodsum. So you'll see that there's a specific motion that has to be made to authorize the resolution for this lease purchase. So that's in your packet as well, and the motion's at the very top of that. And it is for the $350,000.
All right, thank you, Mindy. Does anyone, I guess we'll first go for a motion, but thanks for describing it. Someone want to make that motion? It's at the top of that page.
Top of the third page into that packet on the lease.
I can,
It's right after my memo. There's my memo and then the,
Oh, the one at the bottom. I
No.
recommend the
no,
board.
I move, I can do it.
okay.
I move that the resolution entitled, Resolution to Authorize Lease Purchase of Technology Equipment in the principal amount of $350,000 be adopted in form presented to this meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion? All right, call for a roll call vote.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kristen,
No. I had a question, but that's okay. I'm going to say no for now.
David Gilman,
Yes.
Dan Holman,
Yes.
Noah Easter,
Yes.
Leslie Marco,
Yes.
Patricia Clark,
Yes.
Chad White,
Yes.
Sean Roderick,
Yes.
Brian Tarbuck, David Twitchell,
Yes.
So those, how many yeses?
11.
11 yeses and 1 no. All right, so motion prevails. Okay, what do we have next? We need to discuss who would like to go to, it's not an action item, but we need to know the MSMA Fall Conference. I know Leslie and I are going at least minimally to the board chair and vice chair training. That's the day before. And there's registration, so we can register in the school.
So, and Wendy and Patricia have said that they would like to attend again.
And so if others would like to go, you don't need to yell, you can either let it be known, or you can email Dr. Smith and let her know, but there are deadlines and discount deadlines, so please do it sooner than later. Just wanted to make sure everyone knew that.
You have to have the registration in by Friday.
Yeah, there you go. So please let her know by Friday. I think that is it. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Have a good evening,
Kristen
everybody.
had a question.